Hello, good evening. Welcome to our Institution of Global Professionals pre-webinar. Thank you all for joining and stay with us till the end. And my lovely audience, today I am your host Dasrath from Pakistan. For the I am host for evening. Dear audience, I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel honored and privileged to host this webinar. It's my delight to welcome you all to our Institution of Global Professionals free webinar. Thank you all for joining us today in this marvelous evening, and it's my humble request and pleasure to all of you stay with us till the end. For I am sure you all will have many takeaways and uh, payoffs from this webinar. Each time you can like and comment in our webinar, don't forget to tag, share, and mention your friends in the comment box. So let's watch together and learn together. We believe that power is gained by sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. Once again, I am Dasrath Megwad from Pakistan, host in IGP, and everybody every day some new participants join with us, so I have to be give little concept about IGP. Basically, IGP of Institution of Global Professionals serves students and community resources, providing holistic social work and education for create a proficient generation. IGP is a leading online skill development institute with thousands of learners worldwide. We make it get it able to use for every knowledge seeker to originate personality more ambitious, make confident to face any circumstance and develop own skills. We are interested with international recognition. We organized our webinar trainings, offline, online courses, etc. by based and trained speakers, coaches from all over the world to create a best learning platform for you all. Our mission is to empower people and enhance. We have already completed 354 webinars successfully. We expect that you all are getting a little bit benefited in personal and professional life, and wish that you all are remaining with us in long journey. Let me remind you again, don't forget to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends in the comment box, because your attachment encourage us to do better and best service to our lovely audience. Our mission is to empower our youth to stay with us by your support. I am cordially welcoming you are. To, Today we are representing the webinar number we are representing the 355th webinar, and webinar on the topic building intercultural competence in virtual language classroom, and our speaker is Jerison Faber. So let's so now it's a time to start our program. Yes, sir. Start, sir. Jerison.
Hello, thank you, Desret, for your introduction. Okay, and thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to speak with the Institute of Global Professionals. I'm Jarison Fabre, and I'm speaking live here in Lawag City, province of Ilocos Norte in the Philippines. Okay, right. So let me introduce myself. I am currently teaching here in Mariano Marcos State University in Lawag City, Ilocos Norte, and I'm handling language classrooms. Also, I am a program leader here for gender and development activities, and also designated as chief for a Center for Humanities, Social Sciences, Communication, and Education Research Center. And for today, I am glad to share with you, okay, So Reggie, all right. So I'm glad to share with you here a presentation on the topic building, please, um, building intercultural competence in virtual language classrooms. All right. Okay, I hope you can see my screen now. Okay. All right, thank you. All right. So you might be wondering what's the implication and what's the importance of listening to this discussion on building intercultural competence in language classroom when some of you here are not teachers, professional teachers. You might be into other skills. You might be into other fields. So intercultural competence is not only for education, it's actually a growing consciousness. It's a field that's important to all people, and we'll tell you later why. Then you might not be teachers, but you would understand that today in the 21st century, especially that we're on the pandemic and classrooms have been migrated online, it's very important that we sensitize our students, your children, our youth to become interculturally competent, sensitive about other people in their language and in their interaction with a lot of people online, right? So for this presentation, we would want you to appreciate the role of intercultural competence in the field of education specifically. You could also relate this to the other fields for those who are not professional educators. We would also like to identify here different ways and how we could integrate intercultural competence in language classrooms. And finally, we could design here cultural tasks that promote intercultural communicative competence. As an opening for this discussion, I would like to relate with you a short text story. It's untitled "A Country Boy Quits School," written by Lao Shan from China, and this is also pronounced as Lao Shi. Now, before I read to you a summary of this, I have to ask you this question. Can culture affect the way that we view education? Again, let me repeat the question. Can culture affect the way that we view education? For your answer to this question, I'd be happy if you could send your comments on our chat box after we read the story for you. Okay? So, the story about Country Boy Quit School by Lao Shan is actually set in the city of Peking, now in Beijing, China, right? And the story is about a poor Chinese family where there is a boy of an early age, around 6, 7 years old, who was toiling every day in their farm just to help augment for their living. He was helping his father and grandparents maintain the farm, okay, carry the corns, plow the farm, and so he was really useful to his family. The family, however, is forced to send this boy, who is very important to their family because he's working for this farm, to go to school. Schools during that time is not yet institutionalized in China because by that time there was this city ordinance which cites like this: an official proclamation issued in the city to the effect that unless a boy is over 6 years of age is sent to school, some adult in the family will go to jail. This rule actually compels the family to send the young boy to school. And for the family, they were so hesitant. One, because the family is finding the boy so useful in their home, in their farm. The second is that they cannot afford to send this young boy to school because it would cost them some money just for buying his stuff in school. However, they could not send someone to go to jail either. And so this family said, let's give it a try. Good thing, okay, there is this chance for this young boy not to be, well, exploited as a laborer at that young age. However, let's look at what happens next. In the story, he goes to school with, actually, he was clueless on what's going to happen. So from the school, he was so excited. He went there so early. In fact, too early for the children to even go there. And then he got his first book. All right. Um, in that book, he was reading the information aloud. So the family was surprised because he said the book would cost him $1.30. And that for the poor Chinese family was an expensive amount. They couldn't afford that, right? So as he was reading, the family was actually discussing how expensive it is to send someone to school, the young boy to school. He was reading and they were surprised to see that within that book there were so many foreign concepts, things that weren't native to them, like the ox is tending the fire, the horse is eating noodles, or the woman is spinning the thread using the left hand, which is not customary for the Chinese, or the men are wearing black leather shoes, which is not also Chinese. With this different information and with the cost of that book, the household is holding grudges against each other for the decision of even sending this boy to school. However, they still let him go to school. The boy, on the other hand, tried to frequently read this book aloud. As he was reading this book on top of his lungs, it was bringing so much discomfort for the family. You know why? In that book, he was reading the text like this: in my family, I have my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. There wasn't any mention of grandparents, something that the Chinese who live in extended families would have, right? So, in that context, the family, the grandmother, upon hearing this message from the book, was actually enraged. She said that she felt she's being worthless, not included in the family. And so the father finally decided that bringing the boy to school has been sending their family so much chaos and misunderstanding. So he decided that he'd rather go to jail than to send this boy to school and destroy his family. So the ending was, unfortunately, the country boy had to quit school. Right. Now, you could answer the question I raised earlier. Can culture affect the way that we view education by chatting here on our comment section? And yes, I think the staff could help me read some of your answers. Okay, I think I'm seeing some of the answers here, and yes, they're saying that culture indeed affects the way that we view education. And if you say that culture and education are connected, that's also true. Okay, culture and education are connected with each other. Right. So let's proceed to the next slide, sir. Okay, the next slide. Right. Saying that language and culture and education are connected, we try to focus our attention now on special attention in language and culture. We say that many people have been, well, not going to school in the past because they could not see the relevance of what education would bring to their family. It's not something within their culture. And so many people have been um, seriously not considering sending their family members to school, especially girls in the past. And I think this is true to many countries. The thing is, there was lack of information drive of importance of doing education in a certain culture. And I think the bigger picture here is that culture is not properly integrated in the educational system. So that instead of seeing how it will make their culture and their life better, they would see it as something threatening to their culture, threatening to their life. That's why it's important today that we understand the context of educational system, that it has to be well rooted in our culture, in our tradition. It has to be localized, indigenized, and considering the different aspects of our cultures and tradition to make it something that the people could embrace, something that they could relate to, and something that they could uh, be assured of that's going to help them in the long run. Language and culture, in particular, have to be integrated to this educational system. Why? Because language and culture are two concepts which are intertwined. We carry our language with a strong sense of the culture from where we originated, right? I speak Ilocano, I speak Filipino, and I bring with me the Ilocano culture, the Filipino culture alongside. The culture is also transmitted using our language. And so we teach our language and culture, and we carry with us a strong sense of identity. Now, it's important that we know our cultural identity, our cultural heritage, because the world has become, well, it became a smaller place for us with increased what we call globalization, where we have higher migration and immigration rate, where people get to be more interconnected on a daily basis, right? Be it in the context of the academe, in business, in personal concerns like in tourism, leisure, traveling, and the likes. With this interconnectivity among people, there is therefore a need for us to make our language education interculturally focused, right? We don't want to be sending people who are still ignorant of the culture of other people when they meet them, when they see them, because this gets to be a problem. I'll show you later using another framework. Language proficiency in the past was seen to be the heart of language studies. In the past, teachers would teach with the goal to approximate the speakers of native languages. Teachers would try to make them speak the language, and that's it. That's the ultimate goal of language teaching. But today, language teaching goal has five concerns, which they would sum up into an acronym 5 C's. That stands for communication, culture, connections, comparisons, and communities. Why does it have to consider culture, connection, comparisons, and communities? This is the reason. We have here an intersectionality analysis analytic framework, which is from well, I downloaded it from CCR Web. Okay, it's called the Wheel of Power Privilege. This has been used as a material for teaching gender disparity on gender and development. But let me use this to show you the importance of integrating intercultural sensitivity and intercultural competence in classroom and in our daily life. We operate in a society where the closer you are at the core of this wheel, okay, the more privileged you are, right? And the farther you are from this wheel, the less privileged you are, with a strong sense of being other, right? The concept of otherness or othering. So, looking at this, what is this power wheel about? This talks about language, for example, where speakers of native speakers of English are more privileged than those who just learn English, those who speak English as a second language, and most importantly, they feel that they're more superior to the non-English monolingual people, right? The concept of gender, where gender is only for men and women, while men is more privileged than women, and those who do not belong to this binary gender, the transgender, the intersex, the non-binary, they are the others. The same true happens with citizenship, with skin color, with whites being more privileged than the colored people like us, most of us here on this platform. In terms of formal education, those who were able to graduate post-secondary or attend tertiary education or postgraduate education compared to those who weren't able to go to school at all. For the ability, those who have able body compared to those who are specially abled. For sexuality, those who are heterosexual, men or women, then those who are gay, man, lesbian, pansexual, asexual, and the many other sexualities. Neurodiversity, mental health, body size, housing, wealth, all this comprise a framework where when you try to analyze, gives us a perspective about how power really operates in the society. We do not want to have people in the future, the young people, our learners, our children, to be culturally insensitive by trying to make other people feel that they do not belong or they are worth less compared to other people. Because some children or some people look at themselves as more superior than the rest, right? And so we forward the idea of standards 2006 when they say that culturally appropriate interaction occurs when individuals engage in what we call reciprocal conversation based on mutual understanding and an attitude of openness. We want to see children, our students, our pupils, okay, that in the future they would be able to communicate with other people with the idea that they have mutual understanding and attitude of openness. They would not afford other people respect with consideration to their gender orientation, to their skin color, to their economic status, to their language that they speak or skin color. And so we need to emphasize here that language skills, okay, when language skills and intercultural competency become linked in a language classrooms, students become optimally prepared for participation in a global world. Our classrooms today are no longer confining students, pupils, to live inside the classroom just to become a monopoly of, well, like robots, okay? Training them to perform traditional roles, traditional views. We want them to finish their education in a classroom where they would not become just citizen of, let's say, Philippines or Bangladesh or India or China, but citizens of the world. And to be a citizen of the world means that they need to have a strong understanding of their identity with respect of the different identities that coexist with them around the world. Now, you may want to ask, what is this intercultural competence that we've been talking here about? Intercultural competence comes along with the other communicative competence that we teach in language classrooms. Again, let me emphasize, you might not be language teachers, but you are language users. And in teaching your different subject areas, you are using language. Therefore, the responsibility of carrying this important role of transmitting intercultural competence comes with all of us. Let me continue my earlier point. We have earlier discussed about communicative competence, strategic competence, linguistic competence. Equally important along these areas is intercultural competence, the knowledge of how to interact with other people around us, how to say something which is politically correct, politically sensitive, and inclusive for all. Now, the heart of intercultural competence is preparing individuals to interact appropriately and effectively with those from various cultural backgrounds. If they can interact effectively with them, they would better understand that culture is an integral component of what we call intercultural competence, right? We understand that we're different. We understand that we don't have the same language. We don't speak the same tongue, right? We don't have the same skin color. We're different, yet we can coexist because we have this concept that there is strength in diversity. And so, how do we embrace this diversity in our language classrooms? So Reggie, am I still presenting the slide? Okay. We have here different theories, which I won't be discussing in length, all right? These different theories contribute to the development of intercultural competence. So the first theory here comes from Bennett, 1993. It's called the Developmental Model of Intercultural Sensitivity, or DMIS. It charts what we call the internal evolution from ethnocentrism to ethno-relativism. Ethnocentrism meaning my culture, this is what I know, right? It, in short, it's like shifting from avoiding difference to seeking cultural difference. Before, people would say, I don't like that, that doesn't exist in my culture. But now we say, we appreciate that, we don't have that, and we appreciate that despite not being part of our culture. So that is looking at the new perspective about the differences in our culture. That's from Bennett. Another theory comes from Godicon's 1993. It's called the Anxiety Uncertainty Management Model, or the AUM. This one focuses on self awareness as a key component in building bridges to other cultures. So self awareness is a key player here, right? If you know yourself, if you know your culture, if you know your traditions, your background as an individual, you could successfully manage your anxiety in new cultural environment, right? Self awareness would give you that confidence that I know who I am and I don't need to feel inferior about looking at other people despite our differences, right? So that's from Gandhi Kanst. Another theory comes from Byram, 1997. It's the multidimensional model of intercultural competence. This theory addresses the attitudes, knowledge, and skills needed to interact successfully in intercultural situations. Means that we're open to learning about what we call different world views in order to participate in relationships of equality, right? Our knowledge, values, and attitude have to be sensitized so we could participate in the first place in any discussion about equality. Otherwise, if we're insensitive, otherwise, if we're closed minded, we won't be there to be able to fully grasp and appreciate the concept of equality in the first place. And finally, we have here a theory from Deerdorf 2006. This is the process model of intercultural competence. It creates a continuous process of working on attitudes, knowledge, internal outcomes, and external outcomes related to intercultural competence. This happens in a situation where most classrooms, foreign language classrooms, would have people who are not willing to actually appreciate the differences with other culture. And using this model, it places a good bulk of work on the part of a teacher to actually manage the classroom, to make the students try to become more sensitive, sensitizing the learners in terms of their biases towards other culture. In a capsule, altogether, these four different theories on intercultural competence emphasizes on self-awareness and identity transformation. Okay, that's on the first bullet here. So self-awareness is key for anyone to become interculturally competent because your awareness would help you transform yourself into an identity where you would not see yourself confined inside the box or inside the bottle or inside a certain a vacuum because you are part of a bigger community. Okay, you're part of a global citizenship. Now, another key stage in intercultural competence is transforming the role of student from a mere passive receiver of information to an inquirer. What does this mean? ICC, or Intercultural Competence, Communicative Competent Classrooms, would make learners what we call learner centered. right? The classroom is learner centered, it's engaging, it's interactive, it's participatory, and it's cooperative. Thus, we would want to give a sense of belongingness to a certain group and idea that you belong to a group where you are diverse. In this kind of setup, students are trained to be researchers, inquirers, right? Discoverers of knowledge, where their views, okay, would be like a learner is an anthropologist who would explore and investigate topics both in and outside the classroom. So we want to have here in intercultural competence a stage where students would try to look for things that he or she did not originally know about his culture or her culture and those of other culture. And finding these different things would make them open their minds to wider horizons, that they live in a much bigger world where people are different, where people can coexist. But very important also on intercultural competence stages is what we call the process. Many theorists have been arguing about where do we start the level of preparing our learners or even ourselves to become interculturally competent. The answer actually lies with this illustration here. The journey or the process to become interculturally competent does not end anywhere, does not start or end anywhere. We have to understand that learning is viewed in intercultural competence as a lifelong process. And so the learner continuously learn, change, evolve, transform with time. Our understanding of ourselves and the world around us would change over time. And so it's important that we would maintain an attitude of openness in intercultural competence, because we would be breaking the stereotypes of the past. We would be breaking these different standards set by social norms. We would be breaking away with what used to be cultures and traditions, because these are not permanent, these could be changed. And this is part of our role as educators. Now, what is our role as teachers? Okay, we must lead our students through different activities where their attitudes about the other, okay, let me emphasize this. Other would refer to people outside, if you remember your analytic framework, okay, intersectionality analytic framework. Those who belong outside the exclusive circle, those who are privileged, right, are called others. How do we transform our attitude toward them to become an ideal learner? So we have to think, okay, on how to prepare our students through our activities, assessment tasks, discussions that would integrate intercultural consciousness, all right, intercultural communicative competence, and intercultural sensitivity. So the goal for the students, on the other hand, is to start by questioning their preconceived ideas before entering to the process of discovery about the other, with the intent of becoming more willing to seek out and engage the otherness in order to ultimately experience the relationship of reciprocity. The idea here is that the students should activate in themselves that willingness to be part of this system, this process of including the others, so they would become what? Companions, friends, colleagues, partners for change. Again, the concept here, why we are emphasizing on a more important role on the part of the learner, is because, as per principle, learning is an experience which occurs in the learner and is activated only by the learner. It's when learners see the significance of certain initiatives, actions, that they would become more passionate to get involved, that they're more passionate to participate in such initiatives. And in cultural integration, we would want to see them look at the picture of othering as a type of stereotype that we need to break. We need to deconstruct. And along with it, construct a new identity of a culture where we could integrate other people around us. Some of you might be asking now, is it still practical to talk about this when it's 21st century? Our children are culturally sensitive. We're integrated on Facebook. In fact, we're using now StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook, and many other social media platforms. We're all interconnected. We're all interculturally sensitive. The answer is still no. Despite all these technologies, I still see some of my students, some of my friends on Facebook still sharing memes. And when I say memes, they might not have the intention of degrading other people, but it tries also to mock other people's culture. I'm not going to share these videos because I find them offensive, but I've seen them laugh at other culture where people are using their hand to prepare street food, right? In some South Asian countries, they use their hands to prepare street food. In some Southeast Asian country, they laugh at Southeast Asians who are eating insects, who are eating food which appear to be disgusting in some other culture. They mock at the Chinese for their exotic delicacies. They mock at the Africans for having, eating mud, for example, in some areas where they believe it's good for their body. So these actions from our students, from our colleagues, from our friends on social media still presents the very reason why we're having this discussion at the moment. Because we still need to sensitize them, make them become culturally aware of the diversity of other people, and be more cautious in sharing information, memes, be it memes or jokes on Facebook or at any platform, because we want to create bridges of understanding, not bridges of hatred, not the cancel culture, not of separation, but where we could appreciate that we are different, yet this is a beautiful difference. We can live together with it with respect. Now, the very essence of this discussion is to present to you how could we do this now in the virtual language classrooms. I prepared here some suggestions which I have taken from different studies. I'm going to cite them later, but here are some of them. ICC activities for your virtual language classrooms, okay? So, since our academic system, most parts of the world have migrated online, it's important that we try to make use of the available resources online to integrate intercultural consciousness and competence. One example of these activities would be culture online blog exchange. As you might have experienced, you may have friends on Facebook from other countries. You might have, for example, a friend from Pakistan. Our good host earlier is from Pakistan. You might have friends from Bangladesh. You might have friends from China, from Thailand, from Indonesia, from the Philippines, or from any other country across the globe, right? And so students could be interacting with these different friends on social media as a way of better understanding cultural diversity. They could ask questions. Teachers could try to facilitate designing questions, formulating questions where they could ask it to their friends and ask them on their viewpoints on certain critical issues that you consider today. So students from different countries would not only obtain vital information about foreign culture as a result of this discussion, but you are also given an opportunity to present your perspective, thus making you more aware of the different culture along the process. As a former, well, I say I'm still teaching foreign students at present. I used to teach many classrooms, foreign classrooms before. I had students coming from Latin America, from America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and we've had very fruitful discussions each time we have a class because I make sure that they not only gain something from me from the content of my discussion, but I also get to learn something from them. For example, in my Indian class, I would always try to ask a new word from them, or at least ask them about a story from their state. And I would be so happy to learn each day about new things, about new characters, new films to watch, their Bollywood. Okay, I love watching Indian films. Or from my Nigerian students before, I get to learn about their culture, about their views on different things, like how they view Filipinos spending their money as in comparison to how Nigerians would spend their money. So it was a worthwhile discussion. And I get to reflect, indeed, we don't have a monopoly of all the values, right? We could get to learn about cultures of other people through this fruitful discussion, maybe just for a few minutes, but it gets to be fruitful because we try to share and be engaged in these conversations. Teachers, your students might have right now multiple friends that they could send message. Just that for those who are handling basic education, elementary and high school, you just need to be more careful about asking them to send messages to people you do not know. You should only advise your students, your learners to send messages to people you can trust. Okay, because we might be sending messages to wrong people and not getting the correct answer we want to get. Okay, so culture online blog exchange is just one of the many activities that you could do. If, for example, you're in college and you're doing a study and you want to explore the attitude of your students towards different culture, you could use what we call the OSEE tool. This one was designed by our earlier theorists, Deerdorf and Deerdorf 2000, where it was created to help learners analyze their attitude towards others at the beginning of the intercultural process. You could actually, before sending them to meet other people online, you could try to get their OSEE, okay, result before and after. So we could compare them. You might want to ask, what is this OSEE stand for? O stands for observe what is happening. S for state objectively what is happening. E, explore different explanation for what is happening. And E for evaluate explanation, which is most likely one. Monitoring the different attitude of our learners would give us a hint as teachers whether they are ready, whether they are developing more productive attitude, more positive attitude towards other culture, which would give us a hint if we're prepared to expose them to a more diverse environment, a global classroom, for example, or an exchange program that your school might be involved with. So we call this one the attitude exploration with OSE tool. Another activity that we could do for our virtual language classroom is documenting transformation collectively. As I said earlier, with the OSE tool, you could monitor the before and after attitude of our learners. So we could see the transformation before they get to be exposed and after their exposure. Now, the goal here for documenting is for students to have their eyes open to the fact that many of their perceptions are not based on factual information. Like, well, we always have perceptions about other people, why they look like that, why they eat this type of food, because there are many stories that we're getting from our friends, well, from people we cannot trust. So we could ask them, okay, we could research on this. So learners would gain knowledge about the target culture while they make meaningful connections with their home and target culture through research, through conversations, through inquiry, of course. Learners would begin to experience the process of identity transformation as informed perceptions of one culture replace incorrect ideas. For instance, before, um, in my classroom, okay, we had this perception about South Asians. having this daily consumption of chili, which gives them this pungent odor. Okay, I'm not saying it's bad odor. It's actually a unique odor that they develop out of their flavor. So many Filipinos find it really difficult to interact with them because it's a flavor that's unusual to them. But after they offered food, after they offered the kind of diet that they have, Filipinos understood where that scent was coming from, and they get to really enjoy it. On the other hand, many people, foreign students who come here to the Philippines to visit us, would find it really difficult to consume food with a bagoong. That's a fish paste, right? It's also pungent in odor. Okay, some would not be able to bear the smell at all. But after tasting the different meals that we cook with bagoong, other nationalities would appreciate our local food, our local flavors. And so this creates a transformation of our attitude from negatively viewing a certain flavor to even embracing it in our case. All right. So that's documenting transformation collectively. The next one is values in Proverbs. Um, as a literature teacher, as a literature teacher, um, I always try to use literary pieces in my classroom to actually teach values of other nationalities. And I find this really effective. For example, the Chinese have always been like misjudged by some because of their different attitude compared to Western countries. But if you try to read their literature, if you try to read their perceptions of things, their strong sense of history, and their industry as a people collectively would give you a hint why these people have been economically sustaining their country through thousands of years, right? Why they view every cent of their money that they earn from their businesses to be valuable, and how they were able to develop their business in the Philippines, because there are many Chinese in the Philippines, because of these values of frugality. And in this the same case, we could also use other texts from other countries to teach the values, okay? The values that they have, the values that they hold. And so we could also share our values by looking at these different proverbs. Proverbs may be oral in tradition, they may be written, but they give us a good hint on how people think and behave collectively. It's their soul, it's their collective consciousness. All right? So, values in Proverbs. If you are an art teacher, if you are into designs, if you are into history, you could also explore the use of artifacts. Artifact exploration is where teachers could present certain pictures of elements in one culture, and students would get to explore them, research them, and they would be telling something about this artifact to their classroom. So artifact exploration could be also modified to become a culinary exploration, like what I mentioned earlier. If you want to try Thai food, right, you go research their menus, their ingredients, and try to cook similar food like them and offer it in the classroom. So you would get to have a flavor of Thailand. If you want to have a flavor of, let's say, Egypt, okay, you get to also research about the food they eat and try to prepare it and enjoy it as a class. Or if you live in a metropolitan area where you have restaurants that offer various culinary dishes, you could order them and let your students try them, right? Sharing different foods of different flavor would give you the appreciation of the differences in the way we eat, the way we prepare our food, the ingredients, and so along with it, we are enjoying the different culture. How is language integrated? Well, you make them write their reflection or share their reflection or do a vlog, right? Where they could share their realizations after experiencing these different differences in different cultures. In closing, I would like to give you this quote from Deborah Mayer, who says, "A good language is a good Good schools, like good citizens, celebrate and cherish diversity. This from Deborah Mayer. And with this quote, I would like to thank all of you for attending on this program on our discussion on building intercultural competence in virtual language classrooms. I hope you learned something from this discussion. And if you want more of my discussion, you could check this reference. I got most of my slides from this reference, which you can access online. Thank you, everyone. And please, if you have some more time, could you please help me out in filling out the evaluation form for this presentation? Our good our good facilitator here, Sir Reggie Faber, will be sending a link for this discussion. Thank you. I think we're ready now for the question and answer ask the quiz, and then afterwards the question and answer part.
That's amazing. We are obliged to you for your marvelous presentation and giving us your valuable time. This session will be effective for our audience because you shared your intelligible knowledge with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank,
That's right. That's right,
thank you,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So we're sending on our chat here a link to an evaluation. May I encourage all of you to please send me an evaluation to let me know about how you find this discussion today. We will really appreciate your participation on this evaluation. All right. So are we having the quiz now?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Now we are having the quiz.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Dear participants, let's start our quiz competition. After a short video clips, we move to our quiz competition. And today, our quiz code is Quiz IGP. We change the code only for today. We change the code only for today, and the code is Quiz IGP. Thank you very much. Dear participants, we start our quiz competition immediately. Today quiz code is different from other. The code is Quiz IGP. The link in comment box. We will pick your name from Slido. So join with your full name, which will directly print on certificate. Top 10 participants awarded with quiz certificate. We have now 26 participants already joined. Let's start our quiz competition now. Our first question is, what are some virtual classroom expectations? Play video games and join the Zoom class, or keep camera on, stay muted, listen, use full name and participate. 87% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is keep camera on, stay muted, listen, use full name and participate. On the leaderboard, Nicodemus Miro now leading the first position. Let's move to our next question. When you enter the virtual classroom, you should have your music up, have your camera turned on. 100% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is have your camera turned on. On the leaderboard, Nicodemus Miro leading the first position. Let's move to our next question. What's better, virtual learning or the classroom? 33% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is virtual learning. Nicodemus Miro leading the first position. Our next question is, to be a successful learner in a classroom, you would follow teacher instruction or be friendly. 88% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is follow teacher instruction. On the leaderboard, Jimalin now leading the first position. Our next question is, always use appropriate language while on Zoom. Is it true or false? 100% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is true. Now on the leaderboard, Chimalin also leading the first position. Our next question is, the only language that a computer directly interprets is assembly language or machine language. Eighty percent of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is machine language. On the leaderboard, Lesson Muniandi now leading the first position. Our Ma'am Maribel de la Cruz leading the second position. Our next question is, a virtual frog dissection is an example of tutorial or simulation. 68% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is simulation. On the leaderboard, Lesson Muninandi leading the first position. Our next question is, what language did the ancient Romans speak? Is Greek or Latin? Latin is the right answer, and 44% of our participants give the right answer. Our second last question is technical language and symbols for specific area. User concerned design or specialist language. %53% of our participants give the right answer, and the answer is specialist language. On the leaderboard, Joel A. Barnaso now leading the first position. Our last question is, during virtual classes, we must have dash microphone off unless we are going to participate. My or our? Ninety-three percent of our 93% of our participants give the right answer. The answer is our. Congratulations of our top 10 participants. On the leaderboard, Joel Barnas are now leading the first position, and the following lesson Muniandi, Elias Asteria, Nicodemus Miro, Gina Lynn, Nicodemus Miro, Ma'am Maribel de la Cruz, Stipiani, Emily, and Carmela. Thank you, our top 10 participants. Let's move to our question and answer session. After a short video clips, we come back to our question and answer session with our speaker.
Checking the question. Question time. Huh? All right. Okay. Is this the question and answer part? You may now ask your questions through our comment section here or on our chat box. Okay, and I'll be trying to answer your questions.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Dear participants are requested to ask their question in our comment box. Our speaker now ready to answer the question. So don't hesitate to ask the question.
All right. I think I'm seeing here a
And
question
our first
from.
question also, what's the best way to build intercultural competency?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for this question. Um, Korea Fatima. Right. Like in designing your course, designing your classroom, my answer to the question on which among the different activities would be best for building intercultural competency would be depending on the kind of classroom that you have. The best way to build the classroom competency would be trying which one would really work. But our suggestions, if you watched our suggested activities earlier, would start from trying to get our learners involved in evaluating, assessing their attitude towards different culture. Because as we said earlier, a key stage, especially in starting our engagement of our students in building their intercultural competence, is gauging where they are coming from, what's their attitude towards other culture. If we see that their attitude is actually more open or more stiff compared to other students, then we need to do some reinforcement as needed. Try to break stereotypes, okay, and try to present to them a new perspective regarding their biases, their stereotypes, and other culture by showing an informed or research-based information about these different cultures. I hope I answered your question, Fatima. All
Thank you, sir.
right. Okay. I think I'm reading also a message from Reggie Fab. What are the personal challenges you have encountered in building intercultural competence in your classroom, and how did you strategize? Okay, thank you. I used to handle a classroom back in another university where I came from, and the students there really have negative impressions toward Indians. Okay, because I had my Indian students in that university, so their attitude to them is and the Indians, on the other hand, would also have negative attitude towards the Filipino counterpart. So what we did was we had strategized this activity. They had the festival of Indians. I think the festival was called it's a flower festival or holy festival where the Filipinos were invited to participate. They were there to observe, and the Indians tried to present to the Filipinos their culture, their dances, their music, their food, where Filipinos could actively engage in these activities. And so it was more of an eye opener on the part of the Filipinos for having these prejudices, discriminatory actions toward their Indian counterparts, and the Filipinos actually, on the part of my students, actually appreciated the Indians more, better, right? Than when they weren't involved at all in their activities. So after that event, I've seen some of the Filipinos trying to learn the different languages of the Indians who were studying in that university, and I've also seen them participate in their sporting activities outside the classroom. And what's good about that interaction where they were involved in these activities is that they had this constant communication. They're using social media to actually post their appreciation towards other culture, the new things they learn. And I think that's a positive attitude developed out of this interaction among our students. All right, Sir Reggie.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Our next question is good day to all. To have an effective virtual classroom, students must have a gadget and internet connection. How about those students don't have a gadget with for internet connection?
Okay. Right. Good gadgets and internet connections. All right. Yes, we do understand that in many places across the globe, the problem on internet connectivity would really hinder our connection with other people. All right. So, what we actually suggest, especially for places where we have poor connection, is that we try to maximize our resources, our available resources to integrate intercultural connectivity. For instance, even in just simple packaging of food, let's say we have fruits which we get from China, right? Or Fuji apple from Japan or from other countries, or even the wrappers of candies or food or chocolate. These can all be part of our integration of intercultural sensitivity and awareness for our students, where tasting it, seeing this, reading the text, even just simply watching their advertisement, be it offline, be it printed, these can all contribute to awareness that there is a different culture beyond what they are familiar with. So awareness would create them to actually inquire more, right? That there is something new they learned from another culture, and they would be interested to learn more from this different culture. How do they do it? How do they prepare it? Okay, what other languages do they speak? Do we have anything in common? This would be some of the questions that our students would be asking next after getting exposed to these different, let's say, artifacts or food products or text from other countries. If we cannot have it online live like this, we could also use the films, the movies, the things that we show in another country. For instance, when I was teaching literatures of the world, and I had to teach a culture of Singapore, which is just close to the Philippines, I would use videos from Singapore as if trying to make them go to another country, right? Um, watching these videos, watching the interactions, watching the films in their more convenient time, where their internet is stronger at a certain time, would be a way of sensitizing them, of exposing them to another dimension, something that they cannot have online. Other than that, we could explore more, like books, like the traditional way of introducing the other countries. Again, the emphasis here is not to show only the comparisons, but also the contrast. What differs within our country? Okay, what's unique within their country? And out of understanding these unique features, these differences, it makes us become more aware, more sensitive, and more appreciative eventually of what they have in another country. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, sir. Our next question from Evelyn. Good evening, sir. What are the challenges encountered using the different intercultural competencies activities? And thank you.
All right, thank you, Miss Evelyn. Right, as we said earlier, regarding internet and also regarding these different resources, it's really not equal for all that they have these resources to access this information. Our discussion actually today focuses on virtual language classroom, but we do understand that in many cases around the world, we're not having virtual classrooms. We're having module-based discussions, handouts, in place for those who do not have internet connectivity. So resources would really be a problem. Another issue is when teachers are not familiar with these different cultural differences, these stereotypes, or they might be promoting these stereotypes themselves, right? So it's really good if we can invest on training our teachers to be more sensitive about these different cultural identities and the language that they use in the classroom, so that we don't refer to other countries with degrading terms, with terms which are inappropriate. We would like to use a more empowered and politically correct terms for them, okay? And try to engage our discussions to a level that is appropriate to our students. So regarding the problem on challenges encountered in intercultural competence activities, we could actually do limitless activities if we have the resources. But again, given the limited resources that we have, especially in public schools, we should try to be more creative and innovative, but at the same time, try our best to prepare our students to become global citizens still, right? Use other resources to involve them to become uh, global thinkers. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Our next question is, can we make virtual learning better than classrooms?
All right. Thank you again, Haria Fatima. We can make our virtual learning better than classrooms. I agree with that. Given the resources, right? If we have our students equipped with laptop, computer gadgets, and good internet connectivity, I think we could make learning more convenient for all and interaction more accessible for everyone. So I completely agree that this would be more effective, in fact, because we could accommodate in our virtual classroom students coming from other countries. For example, if our university could cater for different nationalities like Pakistan and the likes. I had last semester students from Indonesia. Okay, she was from um, Bali, Indonesia, and Eastern Java. And yes, they could participate in our classroom. Our Filipino students were very willing to share with them their knowledge about our country. And I think we're doing really well in intercultural integration in that classroom.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Our next question is, how did you transform your challenges to opportunities?
all right. Thank you, Sir Reggie, for that question. So, with the many challenges of integrating intercultural competence in our virtual classrooms, we were trying to really look at these challenges more like an opportunity. Okay, transform them into opportunity, because again, we're teachers. We're here to innovate and to try to transform our educational landscape more suitable for our students. So the challenges, for instance, about not having our students in the face-to-face classroom is turned into an opportunity in the sense that we attend classes online in a more convenient time. We don't have to actually have the same time zone to attend our classes. We could make our classes recorded so other students from other countries could attend our discussions if not live. We could share to them videos. We could share to them resources. For example, I do not know about, I haven't seen Pakistan, okay, in person. But if I want to teach something about Pakistan, okay, I could download videos, link these videos to you, and have a discussion. Get your thoughts about this video clips on Pakistan, or discuss issues which are crucial to both our countries, political issues, social issues, where we could derive our different views on things. Let's say gender equality, let's say human rights, let's say we talk about sustainability. All right. So these opportunities come into the picture when we think of transforming our classroom from face to face to virtual classroom, because we have all the resources here online. But again, the problem on making it more sustainable for our students who do not have access to computers and internet could not be addressed that easy, right? But we're actually trying to reach out now to different donors who could possibly donate resources for our students to make it more accessible for them to participate in our classes online. So this could be also another picture of intercultural competence, because people from other countries, other nationalities could contribute in these initiatives. So yes, I hope I answered your question, Sir Reggie.
Okay, sir. Sir, the next question is, Sir Gerson, I teach arts appreciation. Can you suggest some best practices to promote intercultural appreciation or arts?
All right. Thank you, Sir Ramil Nante, for your question. Yes, arts would be a very interesting field to integrate intercultural competence, right? Our understanding of beauty, our sense of artistry is universal. And so this would be one way to actually bridge the gap, because in language classroom our problem is really on how to make students understand this concept verbally, right, in written and oral form. But in arts it's universal. Just simply make for visual arts, for example, just make them look at the paintings, right, the artwork, the masterpieces created in one country would make the students have a hint of what kind of, for example, interpretations they could derive and reflections that they could make on that country. And again, getting the idea that art should be on the behind the interpretation of art is in the eye of the viewers, the participants, right? Would make give them that power to interpret that there is a diversity in possible explanations aside from those that would be given by, let's say, the artist himself or herself. So how could we integrate them in other forms aside from visual arts? In music, right? In music, in literature, these are in oral and written form. So this would be good. This is would be good springboard for discussion about what we think about music, what we think about these literary masterpieces, and how we see ourselves as an individual coming from a different culture. How do we view these differences? Actually, these are very effective tools, the art themselves, to integrate intercultural sensitivity and competence. I hope I answered the questions. Okay, do we have some more questions, sir?
Okay, sir. Our next question is, what activities do you suggest to develop intercultural competence in ESL or EFL classrooms?
Okay, so Reg.
Sir, our next question is, what activities do you suggest to develop intercultural competence in ESL or FEL virtual language classroom to communicate effectively and smoothly?
Okay, for as a language teacher, thank you for the question, Brad MK. Yes, for ESL and EFL classrooms, virtual language classrooms, again, I would really forward the idea of having our peer tutors, peer mentoring, and our discussion through vlogging, okay? Question and answer vlogging. Because in a second and foreign language teaching, it's important that we do not only get the concepts, the theories, for example, of grammar, but the way that we're able to use it in meaningful conversation. And this is what EFL and ESL classrooms would provide interaction with authentic speakers of this target language. For instance, Filipinos trying to learn French could interact with a French speaker, ask questions, okay, online through our question and answer vlogging format, right? Where they could present their views and use a target language. From this, you could give your suggestions, your critics on their performance, not only on the task but also on how they view certain topic. So I hope we could have more of our ESL and EFL classrooms to be more authentic in terms of interaction. We engage them into meaningful conversation, and we do this with the available resources of our foreign speakers online, right? Who are willing to give it. Mostly, our speakers are willing to provide information for free. So let's take advantage of this limitless opportunities available online. All right.
Thank you very much, sir, for your marvelous presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our host is now in network problem, maybe. He end the program.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
There was
sir.
network problem. Now, okay, dear knowledge seeker, I would love to thank you all from my deep heart for attending today's session. Hopefully, you learned something new and you will implement it in your life. Please leave a review on our page if you learned something or we help you a little bit. Don't forget to collect e-certificate and obviously give a check-in with IGP. Please spread the information with your friends. We hope to see you all again in next webinar. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay safe. Thank you so much to our guest speaker and pleasing viewers. Don't forget to collect your e-certificate from our website by the link mentioned below after session get over. And my worthy viewers, I would now request you all please leave a review of today's session, and I also recommend if you learned something. And I repeat again, not to forget collect your e-certificate. Stay happy, stay safe. I am your host Dasrat from Pakistan signing out. Thank you all.
Okay. So